Hey guys, Has here at Shield Canine, and we are live. I'm back from Europe, and this is gonna be my first YouTube live in a minute. So I'm gonna do a YouTube live. We can talk all things dogs and dog training. I've wrapped up the 2025 trial season, so we can talk a little bit about that if people want to talk about that. And yeah, we'll get started. So I'm just going to give people a chance to jump on here. Obviously, this just started. So give people a chance to find the stream and jump on in my usual fashion. I did not pre-announce this. I decided to do this basically 5 minutes before I did it, but that's all right. It goes up, it stays up, and people can enjoy it for as long as they want to. All right, all right. Yeah, good to see all of you. Hello, hello. Thank you, sir. Yes, fire up the like button. We got the UK in the house. Cool, cool. Switch this to over watching the Bills game. I know you won't. Hey, there's no pressure there, eh? Khalil says, loving the sports dog bundle. I don't beat myself up. Don't worry. The longer you trial, the more you realize it's not always going to go your way, especially in the beginning, actually. You know, in dog sport in the beginning, most people, when they trial in the beginning, unless they're very fortunate, they experience a ton of failure. And if you can't deal with that, then dog sport is not for you. Most everybody loses more than they win in this game, and every success is built on a dozen failures. So I'm very familiar with not doing well in a trial, and I know just what to do when that happens. So, of course, in the moment you're disappointed because no one goes there to, not, well, I shouldn't say no one, but I certainly don't go there to not win and not do well. But hey, man, like, I can win like a G and I can lose like one. You know what I mean? And I've shown that repeatedly on here. And that's part of like why I like to share this journey, because this isn't the first time, I've had a problem in a trial or things didn't go our way. If you recall last year at the GSSCC National, both my dogs had a big problem and dropped a phase, and we finished fifth and sixth at the GSSCC National, or sorry, sixth and seventh at the GSSCC National. You know, so, and then I went back this year and I won it. So, it is what it is, right? Like this is dog sport. There's ups and the downs, and the dogs don't always perform consistently. And there's, always like a problem here and there. And it is what it is. Like, if you're not comfortable with it and you can't handle it, it's not for you. This game is not for you. But I'm very familiar with this place. And while, of course, in the moment, you're upset and you're disappointed because that's the way a winner feels when they're, not winning. Again, it's something you get over very quickly and you move forward from, because that's life, right? You can't always win. If you always won, then everybody would do it. Yeah, in the end, yes, you're right. Somebody said, definitely a successful year despite not finishing the way you wanted to. Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't finish the way I wanted to at the World Championship, but I still have a national championship. So I'm a Canadian national champion. Not so many people can say that. And we had an Ontario regional championship. So I got the podium 2 times this year, and that's out of 4 times. So I'll take it. There's certainly worse odds than batting 50%, right? Especially in dog sport. Those are actually quite good odds. So I'll definitely take it. And next year we'll try to do one better. And it's funny because if you look at the 2024 season, so this year was the season of Gage, or sorry, Chico, and last year was the season of Gage. So in 2024, I had Gage. We did the Quebec Regional Championship, which we won. So we were Quebec Regional Champions. Incidentally, yeah, we were Quebec Regional Champions. Ironically, Chico was actually third in that competition. So I had 2 dogs on the same podium. And then in the Canadian Working Dog Championship, we came second. So we weren't champions, but we were vice champions. And then, we had a problem at the GSSCC Nationals, where we came sixth and seventh. But then following that, I went to the FCI World Championship and we finished in the top 10, which was very respectable for myself and for Gage. But this year we kind of went the other way. We had the Ontario Regional Championship. Gage was pretty much injured right from the beginning of that, and I ended up pulling him in that championship and just didn't trial him again this year. Then we had the CWDF, which last year we were vice champions. This year we finished fifth, right, and didn't qualify for the team. Then we went to the GSSCC National, which again last year we didn't qualify. We didn't finish. We finished sixth and seventh. This year we won the freaking thing, right? Then we went to the World Championship. Unfortunately, didn't go our way. But this is like in case you can't see like the pattern. Two different dogs. 2024 Gage, pretty much. This year was Chico, and basically two podiums in both those years. Except Gage did get the top 10 finish. So I'd say he's still got one over on Chico. But this is the way it goes, man. I'm excited because definitely every time you go to the World Championship, you learn something. This year, even though, I always kind of joked with my training group that like Chico, he's a dog with so much upside, right? Like because he's so talented, he's so physically impressive. And when he's concentrated and when he's under control, he's the epitome of what the German Shepherd should be, and he always gets extra points. Like I swear, if Gage and Chico do the same thing, and this is no joke, if Gage and Chico do the exact same thing in whatever, obedience, tracking, protection, whatever, they do the exact same thing, Chico will always get more points because he is just the physical embodiment of what people think the working line German Shepherd should be: big, beautiful, powerful, dominant, strong, intense, all of that stuff. But if he loses his concentration, it is catastrophic. And it's catastrophic for a number of reasons. It's catastrophic. Like for Gage, if he loses concentration, the slippage isn't that much because, number one, in my opinion, it's my foundation. Like Gage has a fantastic foundation. And when a dog starts to slip, they slip, I think, to the level of their foundation, right? With Chico, when he goes loose and he starts slipping, his foundation is not my foundation. And it's real sloppy and there's a lot of big holes there. And that's why it's so catastrophic. Also, he's a little bit of a different dog mentally. And when he goes loose, he goes loose. He doesn't go a little loose. He goes loose, right? Maybe a year from now, it'll be different. Obviously, like every month that he's been with me, he's improved. I mean, if you think about it in 2024, his performance, yes, he finished third at the Quebec Regionals. But then after that, his next trial was the GSSCC National. He had good protection, he had decent tracking, but then his obedience, like complete shit show. This year, you know, we had really good obedience at the regional. He's picked up an issue with the send out a little bit, but still overall, he's definitely a better dog than he was in 2024. So, maybe 2026, he'll be even better than 2025, and that'll be our year. So, this is the way it goes, right? But Gage is also back in business, so we're going to put him back in training. And as long as his body stands up to the rigors of training, Gage is back in business too. So I'll compete them both at the Ontario Regional, and if they both qualify, the Ontario or the Canadian National, and then I'll pick the best dog to go to the World Championship with. Hopefully, I have two team spots and I can pick which one I want to take. What else do we got here? Oh, and by the way, I'm going to have an episode of Dog Sport where, so guys, if you haven't seen my series, Dog Sport, very well shot, well edited. I put a lot of money and time into it. I don't know why, because it makes like zero money, but Dog Sport is a docu-series following myself and my dog's journey, as well as Team Full Power's journey through Dog Sport in 2025. So it follows all the competitions. Right now, all the way up to the Canadian Nationals has been released. There's one more Dog Sport episode left, episode 8, and that's going to be my World Championship experience. And you better believe I'm going to share all the details there in that episode. Any advice? Emmett says, any advice on flying with dogs? Not the paperwork, just prepping the dog. My guy's in cargo for a 7+ hour flight. Yeah, not really, man. Like I put my dogs are all crate trained. So they're used to driving in the car in the crate and they can do a lot more than 7+ hours. So it's like your dog crate trained, they should be fine. Like My dogs stay in the crate for 8 hours, no problem. So it's never a worry for me. They go in the crate, they get loaded on the plane. When they take the baggage off, I see them and they're always fine. Wolf Easy says, "What's up? Has been following you for a while now. I've been really studying your training methods for my now 6-month-old working line German Shepherd. He's a stud. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. You're welcome." The Jindo Man says, "Has, if you had a semi-soft vanilla dog like Lit, you would have won 10 times over." I saw the dog, like, uh, you know, I mean, fair play to the handler. She looked really well trained. She looked really well trained. At the end of the day, I don't do the sport just to win. I do the sport to enjoy the process. And for me, a big part of enjoying the process is having a dog next to me that excites me. And those are the only types of dogs that I'm interested in showing. So, that's my personal preference. But she did track. This trial was won on the tracking field. This trial, the World Championship this year, was won on the tracking field. And yeah, she certainly tracked her ass off. And fair play to her and her team, because that the tracking this year, I mean, again, it depended on your specific draw, but it wasn't easy. Prairie Paws says, "Hello from Alberta. Thank you for all the valuable information you share. Much appreciated." Well, thank you. What else do we got here? We got NWA King Corsos, All Breed Dog Podcast. Oh, yes, I remember you guys. I was on your podcast. What's up to you? Hope you guys are flourishing and doing well. Mudraj says, "Did you see Jager Van Holland tour from Ireland at the WSV?" No, I did meet a young Irish handler. He was a nice guy, but I never really watched too many of the other dogs. I was hyper focused on what I was doing. I kind of like, I tend to check out a lot on like what's going on around me when I'm trialing, whether it's phone communications, email communications, or even what other dogs are doing. And even more so when things aren't going particularly well. So I did not really check into that. Any dogs you saw at the WSV you would love to own yourself? I mean, there were some nice dogs there, that's for sure, but there was nothing that like really made me think like, like, wow, this is like something super different. Marcos Ferry has like obviously a nice young dog. Martin Pasha has a nice dog. I thought Radek Kupka had a really nice dog in Obedience. There's a lot of dogs that kind of like distinguish themselves here and there in different portions of the trial. But yeah, like I can't really say there was like a specific dog that I was like, OMG, you know what I mean? How do we get a Team Full Power USA started? Well, I guess I would have to move there. What are my thoughts on RSV? I mean, it's fine. Like it's another competition. It's like cat sit or any of these other things, right? I think competition is good for the SV and for the WSV, but let's not kid around. The WUSV and the FCI World Championship are still the big man on the block when it comes to credibility and meaning when it, in dog sport. At some point, I'm sure they'll be replaced, but not yet. Not yet. None of these up and comers, none of these competitions yet have achieved the level of, let's say, recognition and meaning that the WUSV and the FCI World Championship have. It's just that simple. So until then, I'm going to keep playing the game for those two. Any thoughts? This is from the UK. Any thoughts on the emerging breeds that we see in sports soon, like the Boar's Hund? You won't see any emerging breeds in dog sport. Dog sport, if we're speaking about bite sport, will always be dominated by the working German Shepherd and the Belgian Malinois. There will never be an emerging breed that eclipses them. Can a sport dog champion be a livestock guardian? I mean, potentially, but Probably not. A livestock guardian is a dog that the German Shepherd and the Malinois, if we're speaking about dogs that tend to dominate at that level, are not livestock guardian dogs. They are herding dogs. So that would actually not be within the breed standard for them to do well in that role. Melanie says, "What is the optimal life years during the canines competition?" I mean, I assume you mean like how long do they last? Typically, like most sport dogs, unless like a critical injury occurs, make it to about 6, 7 years old, and then they're retired. The reason for retirement can be multifaceted. It can be injuries that reoccur, or it can be that the dog just becomes so trial wise, which is a question that I have with Chico is he so trial wise now that I have no hope for him to be successful at that level? I don't know. I'll find out at the Ontario Regional and I think at the Canadian National if that is the case. And that's simply that the dog's just been in so many trials and has that kind of switch that turns, oh, we're in a dog trial, and then they just start screwing around and go loose, and it just means that it's impossible to win with that dog because he's very aware that he's in a position now where there's no possibility of reinforcement, either positive or negative, and he acts appropriately, which means you're not going to win, right? uh Khalil says, if you could, what trait of Gage would you give Chico for the latter to be the perfect dog? My foundation. If I could give Chico my foundation, right, and if he had that foundation that Gage has, I wouldn't have a problem in tracking. I wouldn't have a problem, in a lot of the places that Chico has a problem, I wouldn't have those problems, right? Because a lot of them are foundational issues. What else we got here? Distinct Canine says, just joined your Patreon, and I for sure should have been in it a while ago. Appreciate the content on there, especially IGP deep dives. No worries. I'm glad you guys like the Patreon. I put a lot of like kind of behind the scenes, unedited stuff up there, so hope you guys enjoy it. Douglas says, is it true sires give strength and dams courage? No, it's not true. They both provide 50% of the genetic material. Motor City Canine Solutions. That's Steve Liggins. Hope you're doing well there, my friend. He says it looks good. I've had people who don't understand the sport enjoy the docu-series. Yes, we tried to make the docu-series good for people who don't understand dog sport. So again, guys, check out my series Dog Sport, episodes 1 through 7, and soon to be 8 coming right up. If you want to understand why it is that we do what we do in dog sport. Is there anything further than level 2 obedience classes at Shield Canine? For the pet dog, currently I don't think so, no. My dog Bits says, how does Anne's bond compare to Chico and Gage? He's a very different dog, He has his own challenges when it comes to trialing. And Anne trialed the dog so much, so he's certainly trial wise. He has a good foundation, unlike Chico, so it kind of can carry him through it. But he's certainly had some performance issues at the world level that need to be addressed if Anne ever wants to compete, ever wants to be on the podium with that dog. And he knows that, and that's something he's struggling with, is just because the dog does know when he's in a trial because he's been in so many trials. So just like with Chico, the question is, can we change the training and prep enough that there's enough left there to carry us through 3 more trials, right? Because we don't just go to the World Championship next year. That's if we have to go to the regional. We have to qualify for nationals at the regional, hopefully win regional because we don't show up to lose. Then we got to go to the national, finish top 5 at the Canadian National, and then go to the world championship, this time in Spain again, right? So it's three more trials to get through. That's what people don't understand. It's like every trial you go through with your dog, he's collecting information just as you are. And then the next trial, he's going to be like, oh, I think this is a trial. And then he's like, well, no rewards, no corrections, nothing. Right? And then all you got left is your foundation, how much he really likes doing what he's doing, and how much looseness, you can handle. Your classical conditioning. There's a lot of things, right, that go into trial prep. But the more the dog trials, the more complicated trial prep becomes. And certainly certain types of dogs are a lot more like, it's a trial, I'm going to change what I'm doing, versus, or even just being in a trial, like, and them knowing it's a trial and them losing concentration makes them, become a lot more sloppy in a lot of the behaviors. Like, for instance, if you watch Chico's, you guys don't see it yet, but like if you watch Chico's obedience at this trial, you see by the time I got to the motion exercises, he was super loose. He's looking all over the place and stuff. And it's like in training, he doesn't do that, right? And it's just because the looseness of being in the trial affects the mind, affects the drive, affects everything. And the more trials you do, you know, certain types of dogs really catch on. Others are like very consistent. We got some. Have I considered taking one of Chico's puppies to train from scratch for competition? I have a relative of Chico that I'm training for competition. His name is Hammer, and he is a 4 or 5 month old puppy right now. So, yes, it has occurred to me. Distinct Canine says, hi, Has, you being in a position where I'd assume you can move to the USA, why not? I'm in Canada, but when I compare our system in comparison to the US, it seems like a no-brainer. Well, home is where the heart is. So there's a couple of things. I like where I live in Canada in the spring and the fall. I like it a lot. I like the weather. I like the trees. I like the lakes. I like all the stuff that we have here. I hate the politics. I strongly dislike most of the people we share this country with, just for their political, let's say, views and their social views, which are very short-sighted, and are the product of great privilege and not a true understanding of history or how we got where we are. But all that being said, I like the land. I like the environment. So there's that. The other thing, obviously, you got family, you got friends, team full power. They're all here. They're not in the U.S. But there's a lot of things I like about the United States as well. So I'm not ruling out the possibility of a move or a partial move. But, I also have my dog training facility here. I have everything here. I like being able to walk up the driveway and walk into my dog training facility and train dogs, at something that's taken me years to build, right? So it's not easy, actually, to just be like, oh, I'm in the U.S. now. It's like, no, all that stuff that you have here is not there. You have to build that there. Rip Brainholt says, I appreciate the pet dog behavior issue segments on Patreon. Awesome, man. Yep, we try to give a little bit of everything on there. What are some beginner mistakes to avoid in beginner obedience training? Just be clear. It's black, it's white. Beginner obedience training, I assume you mean just basic pet dog training. Just be clear. It's black, it's white, right? It's not this thing where you have to worry about. Too many people ask in obedience training. I don't ask. I tell, right? The dog's never confused about what I want, and I follow a plan and a system. So it's progressive, and the dog learns very quickly what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Someone says, Jennifer says, will I be adding a level 3 obedience class? I think level 2, the way we used to have a level 3, but what we actually did was we broke level 1 and 3, level 1 all the way to 3 down to level 1 and 2. So level 2 actually contains everything level 3 used to contain. We just actually economized things. Christina Jordan says, "Get the likes up, folks. We're getting gold. Candid talk from the man." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Get the likes up. Come on, guys. 31 likes, 118 of you in here. You guys are misers. You've got to respond to the Hassan Piker abuses his dog on stream. What are your thoughts? I don't know. Like, I didn't watch it. Like, I think he's one of these degenerates that's like responsible for a big part of, you know, the moral and political decay that we in the Western world are experiencing right now. And I have absolutely no respect for that or for him as a person. But in relation to him using the e-collar, I mean, shouldn't that go against all his like stated moral values? You know, always these like crazy woke leftists are always like trying to take a moral high ground, right? So why in God's name would he be using an e-collar? That should go against all his, you know, crazy woke leftist beliefs. Of course, what you find with these types of people is they always will make these grandiose, you know, statements in which they signal their virtue, right, when they think it's going to benefit them. But in reality, all that they are concerned with is their own benefit. So he decided that the dog staying on the bed behind him in his stream, you know, was more important than any true like belief in the moral freedom of the dog to do what he chooses, and he's willing to inflict pain upon the dog actually to force the dog to stay back there. Now, me personally, I have no moral quandary with making a dog stay on a bed and using physical discomfort to do so. I actually have none. In fact, I start that work with my puppies right from day one, and I don't use an e-collar to do it. I actually use my hands to do it. It's on my Patreon, and I actually put one example of this up on the Instagram, because I exist in the world of reality and I exist in the world of nature, and that is the level on which I communicate with the animals, and that's why I have success with the animals, because I'm in a natural way communicating with them in a way that they understand. But usually, like these crazy woke leftists, such as Hassan, don't follow that line of thinking, and well, they say that they don't, but in reality, what you'll find, just like by the way with a lot of force-free trainers, right? They they say they're force free. They preach about all this. They always do this moral grandstanding about how they're, better than thou, and they care so much, and you should respect them because they love the dog, and they always prioritize, this moral position with the dog, that the dog is free to choose, and I don't need pain to train, and all this kind of like emotional mumbo jumbo. But in reality, what you find is behind the scenes, they're actually often horrific people. They will abuse dogs, and they will abuse the people around them without any level of compunction, especially when the camera is off. So, I'm not surprised. What did he actually do to the dog? I don't know. I didn't watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I don't care. Music only says, "Hey, how's Hammer doing? Is he a keeper?" He's a keeper for now. I won't know he's a keeper until he's a year old and he's passed his SV X-rays. And if you want to know more about Hammer, follow me on Patreon, because I post a lot of Hammer's videos on Patreon. How's Gage doing? He's fat and he's lying around the house somewhere. That's how he's doing. He doesn't appear to be injured anymore. So the good news is we're going to put him back in training. We'll see how he does. I will never move to Michigan. No offense to Michigan, but I will never move there. I've been there quite a bit. I have no interest in moving there. It's kind of like a shittier Canada. Yeah, I would recommend starting from scratch with a puppy for dog sport, not trying to repurpose a dog that has questionable nerves for it. It's just going to be a frustrating experience. What are your thoughts on dog trials that test the actual dogs themselves rather than training? Trials like the AVDs. Well, there's two things to that. I mean, there's these type of dog trials where basically the goal is to pile as much pressure on the dog as possible, and just send the dog at a decoy, for instance, and the decoy just puts all sorts of pressure on the dog, and you see kind of which dog like has the ability to do that. But here's my experience with that. Okay, people are confused about what makes a good dog. Is it just blind commitment, right? Just blind commit. I'm just gonna go, and I'm gonna go until either I'm dead or he's dead. Is that what makes a good dog? Think about all the things you want your dog to do. Does that make a good dog? If it does, forget herders. Just get yourself a bull breed and send it in the direction you want to send it. And it will go there and it will fight until it's dead or the thing it's fighting, whether it's a man or an animal, is dead. That is literally what the bull breeds were bred to do. But when you start to say to the dog, now you must control yourself. Now you must follow my instructions. Now you must commit to that, but now stop and instead go do this and stop. And no, you cannot just do that. You must do it in this way, right? That is when you see that there is more to the quality of the dog than just blind commitment in and the ability to ignore stressors, both external and internal. There's a lot more to the dog, right? And that's why you don't see the bull breeds performing in high level bite sport, because it requires more than just blind dumb commitment, right? So those trials, I mean, I think they're entertaining, but I don't think they actually have that much value in terms of breeding. I know a lot more about a dog taking it through the IGP grinder than I would I would know about a dog just doing like a blind send into like a decoy that's got a whole bunch of cans and is beating the crap out of the dog with an empty water bottle. It's like, yeah, that's interesting, and it can tell you something for sure, but there's more to it than that. And that's what you'll find when you do dog sport at a high level, right? Is it's not just about, oh, can the dog handle as much stress as I can pile on him in this moment? Because what you'll see, guys, is stress is cumulative. That dog that you see go through all that shit and bite the decoy, and everyone's like, oh, wow, he's so fast, he's so committed. Maybe you see him a few years later and he comes off. I've seen it. I've seen the dog that had like a stellar reputation come off and quit, right? Why? Why did that happen? Because stress is cumulative. So just because he can do it now doesn't mean he can do it later. Just because he can do it now doesn't mean all of a sudden, oh, this is a dog of breeding quality. What you see in IGP, in my opinion, right, high-level bite sport, exposes more of the dog than these trials where they just send the dog at something and be like, all right, ignore all external factors and just do this, right? Because it requires much more versatility in the dog. And at the end of the day, when we think about what we want out of a protection dog, a family dog, a herding, whatever dog you want, we want versatility. And if you don't test for versatility and you just test for blind commitment, then you'll have a certain type of dog. But then you'll find that when you start trying to introduce impulse control, it falls apart. And that's something you would never know unless you actually did it with a whole bunch of dogs. You put them in the grinder. You can't just track, you have to track this way. If you miss a corner, there's a severe consequence. You can't just bite him. You have to bite him in this way. When I say let go, you can't slowly let go. You have to really let go very fast, right? When I say heal, you must heal in this way, right? Now from healing, you must go into a committed long attack. Like all of these things, right? You do it with a dog. See what kind of dogs can handle that. And it's not so many. Not at the level, not at the highest level. If you want to know about the difference between the sport dog course and other courses that I have, I would suggest you read the course descriptions on the website. He's referring to my courses at shieldcanineonline.com. Hit the like button, folks. Thank you very much for those that did. Trips on trying to get a puppy to take bite work seriously. I've got a 7-month-old Corso, and he sees bite work with me as a play. When it comes to biting someone he's not interested in, yeah, you need to find a decoy that knows what they're doing. Caleb says, looking slim. Hope you're well, brother. I am, actually. I always lose weight when I go to Europe. Everybody always is like, oh, you went to Europe. How's the food? And bruh, like, no offense to Europeans. I mean, I've had some good meals there, but it's nothing special, right? Like, it is hard to get food in Europe. Like here right now, if I want, I can go outside and I'll go and I'll find myself a nice meal with like 40 grams of protein and, all the food I can eat. Like right now in Europe, shit is closed all the time, especially where we tend to be for dog trials. Stuff is closed all the time, keeps weird hours. A lot of the restaurants, like, they kind of had like more like strange dishes, like a lot of like bread and like pasta and not like a lot of meat. Like I like a lot of meat heavy stuff. So whenever I go to Europe, it's like a guarantee I'm going to lose like 5 to 6 pounds usually, which is fine, but that's what happens when I go there. And then, of course, lack of sleep, so on and so forth. My dog Blitz I was watching DIY protection course. I could see this being extremely rewarding and reinforcing to the dog. Is there steps to take to show the dog not to view every person turning a corner as a possible boogeyman? Yeah, the context of it. The context. Everything is context. Just like my competition dogs don't bark at me and bother me all the time and force me to do obedience with them, only in the context of competition. So if you watch the DIY protection course, I'm very clear about how to make that context clear to the dog. This is now protection. You need to act in this way, right? And when you show them that context every single time, and then of course you don't do it in like normal times, if the dog becomes reactive at that point, then you can certainly correct the dog and say, hey, you can't do that. Everything is context. Again, I refer to you the video in which I start a training session with a puppy. I literally put it up on Instagram like, I don't know, an hour ago. I start a session with my puppy Hammer by correcting him for coming off place. Then literally a couple seconds later, I break him off place and I have him jumping on me and being all crazy. How can we do this? Because in the beginning, I make the context clear for him, right? Like I'm teaching him to bark at me. But if you're on my Patreon, you saw that I corrected him for barking in the crate. He's not allowed to bark at me in the crate. When he's in the crate, that's quiet. I corrected him very firmly for that. So now he's quiet in the crate. But when I take him out to train, he's allowed to bark at me. When he's on place, he's not allowed to bark at me. When he's in the crate, he's not allowed to bark at me. In daily life, he shouldn't be barking at me. But in training, in that specific context, he's allowed to bark at me. Dogs are very contextual beings. Have I learned from Cesar Millan anything? I can't say like I really picked up any techniques from him other than the power. I mean, we shouldn't understate this. The power of nonverbal communication. One thing Cesar Millan is a master at nonverbal communication. He's able to communicate his intention to the dog 110% nonverbally. So people get obsessed with the fact that like, he does his little like kind of like wussy kick behind the leg kick, where he like does that and the dog kind of gets bumped by the foot, or he does the little poke, psh, psh, right? People get obsessed with that and they think, okay, if I do it, it's going to work. No, it's not going to work because you don't have the ability. All the other stuff that he's doing, the nonverbal stuff, the communication of intention that he's able to put into the dog, that is truly what makes him a real dog whisperer. You don't have the ability to do that. So you can psh, 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 all you like. That shit isn't going to work for you. What do I do with injured competition dogs? Depends on the level of injury. Peptides, rest. For Gage, it turned out he just needed rest. I did put him on a run of peptides, and then I just let him lie around. If it's really bad, of course, they're crated, but I try not to do that for too long. It's so long. What is my experience with the pit bull? Well, I have a full YouTube video on my experience and thoughts on the pit bull as a professional trainer, so you can watch that. Matthew Crumpton says, I'm just about to put a deposit on a pedigree Rottweiler. What is your best online course for my dog? Well, if it's a puppy, take the puppy course. And if you want, get the puppy to adult, which is all the training you will need for your pet dog from beginning to end. Icarus Rising says, tracking tells me a lot about dogs. It tells you something. Doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you something. Zeesprick says, blind commitment still has value, though. No. I'd rather have a dog that commits no matter what than a dog who doesn't engage. You never know what you're up against. Okay, until you think about all the side effects of the dogs that have tons of blind commitment. I've seen those dogs. They're not so easy to live with. I've had those dogs. They're not so easy to live with, and they're not suitable for a lot of functions, including police work. What is the best age to train protection training for a Doberman? You can start about 10 months. Junior Am says, can a dog be dual trained? I was told that I would not be able to have a dog to use a true visual aid animal and also have protection qualities. Yeah, like service dog and protection dog, those are two very different functions. For me, I wouldn't mix the two. Braulio says, why does Hans hate on sport dog trainers? Because he can't do it. It's in the nature of humans that lack, let's say, experience, success, and expertise to, instead of acknowledging their personal lack, to try and denigrate that specific talent and skill that they lack in order to aggrandize themselves, right? And yeah, like I have no respect for that. And like I said, there's always suckers on the internet that follow people like that, but I got no respect for it. Shitty training. Savage Ravage, I have really enjoyed training my German Shepherd puppy based on your content. I keep getting asked if I train dogs. Any tips if someone wants to take on a few dogs to see if it's something I want to do more of? Go for it, buddy. If that's what you want to do, right? If that's what you want to do, go for it. Worst that can happen is it doesn't work out and you decide it's not for you. Samantha Wolf said, ooh, caught alive. Just wanted to say thank you for your insight and knowledge. Helped me pick out an absolute perfect pup. Awesome. Love from Maine. Awesome. Thank you. Joshua says, hey, has I rescued a bull herder 3 months ago and currently prepping him for his BH. So far, so good. He just has a fear issue with one specific person. They never had any bad interaction. He's more or less confident with strangers otherwise. Any tips? Well, if it's one person, I would just leave it be. Like, who cares? Just tell them not to show up for your BH. What else do we got here? I watched your videos about cutting a dog's nails. Is that work for all dogs? My dog hates to get his nails cut. Yes, it does. At the end of the day, when a dog does not like something, whether he doesn't like the muzzle or he doesn't like the nails, you have two methods, right? Method number one, bribe him. Hey, man, like if you let me cut your nails, I'll give you cookies, right? Or some form of that. Number two, force him, right? And my personal favorite, three, I force him and then I bribe him. And he learns that he doesn't have a choice, but if he goes with the program, he's going to get something nice out of it, right? So I'm cutting your nails, or I'll put the muzzle on, or whatever it is, it's going to happen. It's going to happen anyways. But if you're a good boy, you're going to get something nice out of it. And that is the best combination. Distinct Canine says, what Ann said about IGP really gave me a different perspective. All the little details are there because to perfect those details takes a good dog. I used to think the tracking style was done. Yeah, IGP, unfortunately, generally the people in the sport, especially in the organizational levels, are terrible at marketing and terrible at explaining why IGP is the king of dog sport. And it is, like, whether you like it or not, it is the most practiced, most competitive, most widely known bite sport of all of them. And it will remain that way as long as it exists in Europe, which it will now because I think it's been declared a heritage thing. So that means you can't get rid of it, which they tried to get rid of it, but they can't because apparently it's like now it's like declared like a heritage sport. So IGP will be here for the foreseeable future, and it will always be the king of dog sport because it has that level of competition, and the details matter, right? The details matter. And when you stress on those details and you push the dog to perform all those details properly, you find out so much about a dog. Mason said, more sport dogs in public videos with Carson, please. Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, I have so many videos of my sport dogs in public. It's kind of like been done, I don't know if I'll do it again. Why do I prefer German Shepherds more than a Malinois or Dutch Shepherd? I have a whole YouTube video on this. You can watch that. No Cat Bussin says, I have a Rottweiler, the Elite Off Leash course. It's fantastic. Just a shout out for that. Well, thank you, sir, and I hope you enjoy it. Where in Spain will I be competing? Well, first I have to make the team, but if I make the team, I believe it'll be in Lerma. Warner Bros says, is it true stray dogs who have survived in harsh conditions make better pets than home raised? Absolutely not. No, it's not true at all. All right, bro. If you really love the AVD and you believe in it, go for it. I'm just telling you. There's limitations to stuff like that. Ba, 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 ba. Who are some of the top studs currently? I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention because it's not important to me. I have enough access to breeding dogs in close proximity and in my own kennel, so I don't need to, worry about what's going on in the world when it comes to that. How is Bang doing? Bang is very pregnant, so hopefully we'll be dropping puppies soon. Lara says, did Carson get a new competition dog? He did. Maybe. We'll have to see. Larry Fetter says, can you explain a few differences between your sport dog protection training versus personal protection dog? I believe you said the foundation on engagement and how to bite is the same. It is the same. If you're interested, I suggest you get the DIY protection course. That is only personal protection training. But fundamentally, in sport work, there's a lot more details, right? We care very much how the dog bites. We care very much how the dog barks, where he barks, all that stuff. In protection work, like just regular personal protection, all we care about is that the dog will engage. We don't care about all the little details. So actually, it's a lot easier to do. Icarus Rising says, I recently purchased Secret Sauce video. If I recall correctly, all the back tie work was done on a collar versus a harness. Is there a specific reason for a harness then to transition to a collar? No, I just don't use harnesses. Like, it's just a needless thing for me. People are always obsessed with like, oh, the dog's neck. I've been training dogs for like almost 20 years now. I've never had a problem with the dog's neck when they're on a harness, or sorry, on a agitation collar, right? So it's a pain in the ass for me to use a harness. I don't like to use them. Let's see. Help, my German Shepherd has EPI. I'm trying to reward more with toys and treats, but he will only focus on me with food rewarding. Any tips? Yeah, I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? If he has EPI, I assume you're just trying to do pet training. Do pet training. You don't need the dog to take treats in order to do pet training, right? Can a tracking dog be trained for protection? Of course, yeah. They're trained like that all the time. Many police service dogs are patrol dogs and tracking dogs. Many in IGP, all the dogs track and they all do protection. What causes a dog to become a picky eater, especially as a breeder? I saw a dog with high food drive but picky eater. That's impossible. If a dog has high food drive, he's not a picky eater. He will eat whatever you put in front of him. Otherwise, he does not have high food drive. To some degree, it is genetic. You'll see it right away as puppies. And it's one of the things that you can see very early on. If they have good food drive as puppies, typically they will have good food drive as adults, unless you're feeding them, way overfeeding them. If they have low food drive as puppies, in many cases, they will have lower food drive as adults. It's kind of like humans, some of us love food and some of us could take it or leave it, right? So it's the same with the dogs. Mason says, what is the point of the double box? Is a double box mini educator better than like Boss One box? Yes, it is better. Gives you more top end, gives you better contact all the way around. Trying to comb through your videos to see which ones will cross over to the gun dog world. Well, hope you find something. Do I have family protection dogs live with a trainer or do they stay in the kennels? Well, they do both. Very important that the dog, be able to live in a house. I don't sell family protection dogs that haven't lived in a house. Okay, guys. Looks like we have reached the natural end to this live. I'm not seeing anything else on here. Unless something pops up in a second, I am going to check out on this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have I had any issues with my dogs having a reaction to contacts on the e-collar? Not so much. All right, guys. Is it possible to build food dry with a puppy, or am I screwed? Well, it's certainly possible. Stop feeding him from the bowl and make him work for his food, number one. And number two, make the food fun. Is all he's getting the act is all you're giving him just here's your food, eat it, or is it chase the food, fight for the food, take the food? I have like videos on this. Are there things in my Patreon that aren't in my courses? Well, of course. I would not copy my courses into my Patreon. Patreon is more just like, different clips of me doing different types of training. So, if you have to pick between the courses and the Patreon, obviously the courses, it's step-by-step instruction. Again, guys, my course is shieldcanineonline.com. Everything from pet training, behavior mod to sport training. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I will talk to you guys again in the near future. Wish you all the best. Have a fantastic weekend. Or week, I should say.